There is a moment most people never talk about. You are mid-sentence, speaking to someone you love, and the word you need simply vanishes. Not slowly, instantly, like a door slamming shut in your own mind. You smile through it, you change the subject, and later, alone, you sit with that quiet, uncomfortable thought. Is this how it starts? Or maybe yours looks different. You walk into a room and stop at the threshold, completely blank, with no memory of why you came. Or you meet someone, they say their name, and 10 seconds later it is gone, wiped clean as if it was never there. Or you reach for a familiar word, a name, a place, something you have said 1,000 times, and it simply will not come. These are not dramatic moments. They are small, quiet, and that is precisely what makes them so unsettling, because small moments of doubt, repeated daily, become something much heavier. They become a story you start telling yourself, a story that goes, my mind is slipping and there is nothing I can do about it. I am here today to challenge that story directly because I have spent years studying what actually happens inside the aging brain, and I can tell you with confidence that the story most people believe about memory loss is not just incomplete, it is actively harmful. And today, I am going to replace it with something far more useful, something you can use starting right now. Stay with me, because in the next several minutes, I am going to show you a precise 60-second technique that uses two of the most powerful principles in modern neuroscience. I will explain the science behind why it works. I will tell you about a patient whose transformation still moves me, and I will walk you through every step so you can do it yourself today. My name is Dr. Marcus Hale. I am a clinical neurologist with over 2 decades of experience working directly with patients experiencing age-related cognitive changes. And the number one thing I want you to take from this video is not a technique, it is a belief. The belief that your brain, regardless of your age, still has the capacity to adapt, strengthen, and surprise you. Let us start with the myth, because it is everywhere and it is doing real damage. The cultural story around memory and aging goes something like this. After a certain age, the brain starts declining. Forgetting becomes normal. Slowness becomes expected, and the best you can do is accept it gracefully and hope it does not get worse too fast. This idea is reinforced constantly in jokes, in movies, in the way people laugh off their own forgetfulness as just getting old. We absorb this message so thoroughly that it becomes a kind of permission slip for giving up. And giving up, neurologically speaking, is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Here is what the science actually shows. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons. Each of those neurons can form thousands of connections. And crucially, the brain retains what researchers call neuroplasticity throughout your entire lifetime. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to rewire itself, to form new pathways, to strengthen existing ones, and to compensate when certain areas are less active. It does not switch off at 60. It does not freeze at 70. It remains a living, adaptable system for as long as you live. What does diminish with age, if you let it, is the quality of the input, the stimulation, the challenge, the novelty. A brain that is not challenged begins to operate entirely on autopilot, relying on established pathways, rarely building new ones. And a brain on autopilot is a brain that starts to feel foggy, slow, and unreliable, not because it is broken, because it is bored. Think of your neural pathways the way you might think of trails through a dense forest. A trail you walk every day stays clear and wide and easy to navigate. A trail you abandon gets overgrown quickly. The trees close in. The path disappears. But here is what most people miss. You can always open a new trail. You can always clear one that has grown over. The forest does not disappear. The potential stays there. What you need is the right tool. That tool is what I am going to give you today. Before I do, I want to tell you about a patient I will call Raymond, because sometimes a story reaches the part of you that data cannot. Raymond was 74 years old when he first came to my office. He was a retired civil engineer, a man who had spent his career solving precise, complex problems. He was sharp, meticulous, proud of his mental clarity, and now he was frightened, not dramatically. Raymond was not the kind of man to show fear openly, but it was there in the careful way he chose his words, in the pauses that lasted a beat too long. He described what had been happening over the previous year. losing words mid-conversation, taking longer than he used to in order to recall dates and names, missing the thread of a story he was telling. His wife had started finishing his sentences for him, gently, the way you would help someone who was struggling. He hated that. He did not say so directly, but I could see it. What troubled me most was what he said near the end of our first session. He looked at me evenly and said, "I suppose this is just what happens. I am not sure what I expected you to do about it." He was not being rude. He was being honest. He had already accepted a version of his future that had not been written yet. I told Raymond that before we made any assumptions about what was happening, I wanted him to try something for 4 weeks, just 1 minute a day. He looked at me with the particular skepticism of a man who has built bridges and does not have much patience for oversimplification. 1 minute, he repeated. I said yes. 1 minute, done with full attention every single day. He agreed, in the way that people agree when they are being polite but do not expect results. 4 weeks later, Raymond came back. The difference was visible before he sat down. Not dramatic, but real. He was more present. His eye contact held longer. When he spoke, the pauses were shorter and less anxious. His wife, who had come with him, said something I have not forgotten. She said, "He told me a story last week that he has not told in years. All the details. He remembered names of people from his 20s that I have never even heard him mention." Raymond smiled at that. He said, "I am not going to pretend I understand exactly why it works, but something shifted. My mornings feel clearer. I am not chasing words the way I was." He paused and then added, "I started doing the crossword again. I stopped because it frustrated me. Now I finish it. That is neuroplasticity. Not magic, not a miracle. A system responding to the right kind of stimulation consistently applied." Now let me explain exactly what that stimulation looks like and why this particular exercise works when so many other approaches fall short. The 60-second exercise is built on a principle called dual task training. This means performing a physical movement and a cognitive task simultaneously. Research consistently shows that combining motor activity with mental challenge produces significantly greater cognitive benefit than doing either one alone. The reason is that it forces multiple regions of the brain to communicate with each other in real time. The motor cortex coordinates movement. The frontal lobe manages attention and executive control. The temporal lobe handles language and memory retrieval. When all of these are active at once and required to work together, the brain builds new connections between them. Pathways strengthen. Efficiency improves. The system becomes more integrated. There is also the matter of oxygen. Slow, controlled breathing paired with rhythmic movement increases the flow of oxygenated blood to the brain. Oxygen is not a metaphor here. It is literal fuel. Neurons need it to fire efficiently. Most adults breathe too shallowly throughout the day, particularly when stressed, which means the brain is often running slightly under-resourced. This exercise directly addresses that. And then there is the break from autopilot. The cognitive layer of this exercise is specifically designed to create mild, productive struggle. That moment when you go blank searching for a word is not a failure. It is the exact moment of training. The brain reaching, searching, building pathways. You are not trying to impress anyone with how many words you can name. You are creating the neurological conditions for growth. Here is the exercise itself. Find a chair with a firm seat. Sit near the front edge of it, back straight but not rigid. Feet flat on the floor, roughly hip-width apart. Hands resting on your thighs. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. This is your starting position. Take 2 slow breaths before you begin. In through the nose for 4 counts. Out through the mouth for 4 counts. Let your jaw soften. Let your eyes settle. This brief reset matters because a stressed nervous system is not an optimal learning environment. You are signaling to your brain that this is a focused, safe moment. Phase 1 lasts 30 seconds and focuses on physical activation and oxygen delivery. Slowly raise your right arm out in front of you until it is parallel with the floor. As you raise it, inhale through your nose, counting slowly to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lower the arm back to your thigh. As you lower it, exhale through your mouth, counting to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now do the same with your left arm. Raise slowly while inhaling to 4, lower slowly while exhaling to 4. Alternate arms in this rhythm continuously for 30 seconds. The movement is deliberate, controlled, never rushed. The breath leads the motion. If you feel any discomfort in your shoulders, reduce the range of movement. The goal is steady rhythm, not range. During this first phase, your only job is to feel the movement and follow the breath. Nothing else. This alone is doing important work. Phase 2 begins at the 30-second mark and runs for the final 30 seconds. Without stopping the arm movements or the breathing rhythm, add a verbal or mental task. You are going to name items from a category, 1 word per breath cycle. As you raise your right arm and inhale, produce 1 word from your chosen category. As you lower it and exhale, locate the next word mentally. As you raise your left arm and inhale, speak or think that next word. Continue alternating through your 30 seconds. Start with a category that is concrete and familiar. Animals, countries, kitchen items, things you might find in a garden. The category itself matters less than the sustained act of searching. When you run dry, and you will, that moment of blankness is not a problem. It is the point. Stay in the movement, keep breathing, and let the next word surface in its own time. Do not force it. Do not rush. Do not criticize yourself. Simply wait and search gently. That searching is the neurological workout. After 60 seconds, take 1 slow breath and return to stillness. Notice how you feel. Many people report a subtle but real sense of alertness immediately after, a small clearing. That is the beginning of something larger if you give it time. Now I want to address the question of progression because this is where most people either accelerate their results or quietly undermine them. Your brain is efficient by design. When a task becomes too familiar, the cognitive effort required drops significantly, and so does the benefit. This means the exercise needs to evolve, not dramatically, but deliberately. In your first week, use simple, concrete categories. Animals 1 day, foods the next, colors, countries, sports, modes of transportation. Keep it approachable. The goal is consistency and rhythm, not challenge. In your second week, switch to letter-based retrieval. Choose a letter and name words beginning with that letter. This demands a different kind of mental search and activates a slightly different retrieval network. P words, S words, M words. You will find some letters flow easily and others create real productive friction. Welcome that friction. In your third week, introduce a numerical challenge during the physical phase and pair it with your verbal task. Count backwards from 100 by sevens while alternating between naming items from a category. The additional cognitive load requires your executive function to manage competing streams simultaneously. This is advanced dual task training, and it is highly effective. From the fourth week onward, make it personal. Retrieve memories. Name every city you have visited, every teacher you remember from school, every car you have ever owned. Personal memory retrieval activates emotionally connected neural networks that are among the most robust in the brain. It is also, quietly, a way of honoring your own life. The rule of thumb is straightforward. If the exercise feels completely effortless, it is time to raise the difficulty. The productive zone is mild effort, something that makes you reach without making you tense. There are also several common errors that I want you to be aware of because they are more frequent than you might expect, and they meaningfully reduce the benefit of this practice. The first error is speed. Moving the arms quickly and breathing shallowly defeats the purpose entirely. Rapid movement paired with shallow breathing activates the stress response, which is the opposite of what we are trying to create. Slow is not a suggestion here. It is the mechanism. The benefit comes from controlled, oxygenated, rhythmic engagement, never from rushing. The second error is inconsistency. 3 days on and then a week of nothing does not build neuroplasticity. It builds familiarity with starting over. The brain responds to repetition over time. A small investment made daily is worth far more than a large investment made sporadically. The most effective strategy I have found is to attach this practice to an existing habit. Before your morning coffee, after brushing your teeth, immediately following your first meal of the day. Link it to something already automatic, and it will happen without requiring a decision. The third error is divided attention. Doing this exercise while the television is on, or while holding a conversation, or while mentally rehearsing your to-do list removes the focused attention that makes it work. Attention is not a bonus here. It is the active ingredient. A distracted minute is not a minute of training. It is just a minute. There are also 3 supporting practices that cost almost nothing and meaningfully amplify results. Drink a full glass of water before you begin. The brain is approximately 75% water, and even mild dehydration measurably affects cognitive function. Hydration does not create neuroplasticity, but dehydration quietly inhibits it. Remove that obstacle before you start. Allow a small, genuine smile to form before the first breath. This is not about mood or performance. It is about neurochemistry. A smile, even a subtle one, reduces activity in the stress response circuits and slightly increases the presence of neurotransmitters associated with openness and learning. The brain learns better when it is not defending itself. A smile is a signal of safety. Teach this to someone. Explain it to a partner, a friend, a sibling, a neighbor. The act of teaching forces your brain to organize and consolidate information in a way that passive reception never achieves. It also creates shared accountability, and shared accountability is one of the most underrated forces in sustained habit formation. 2 people doing something together are far more likely to continue than one person doing it alone. I also want to say something about sleep, because it is impossible to talk about memory without addressing it. Sleep is not rest for the brain in the way it is rest for the body. During sleep, particularly during the deeper stages, the brain performs critical consolidation work. It transfers information from short-term holding into long-term storage. It clears metabolic waste that accumulates during waking hours. It reinforces the connections made during the day. If you are doing this exercise and sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, you are building pathways during the day and failing to preserve them at night. Protecting your sleep is not separate from protecting your memory. It is the same project. One final thought before I close, and it is perhaps the most important thing I will say today. The moment you decide that something is finished, that a capacity has peaked and decline is inevitable, you remove yourself from the equation. You stop giving your brain the inputs it needs to stay vital. And then, unsurprisingly, it becomes less vital. The belief creates the outcome. I have watched this happen, and I have watched the opposite happen too. I have worked with men and women in their 80s who were sharper and more curious than people 30 years younger, not because they won a genetic lottery, but because they never gave their brains permission to stop being challenged. They kept reaching, they kept learning, they kept building new trails in the forest. You are not at the end of something. You are at a choice point. The brain you have today is not a fixed thing. It is a responsive system waiting for the right signal. This exercise is a signal, a small one, 1 minute. But the message it sends is large. It says, I am still here. I am still engaged. I expect more from myself. And I refuse to accept a ceiling that was never actually real. Start today, not tomorrow. Today. Find a chair, set a timer for 60 seconds, and do exactly what I described. Let the first session be imperfect. Let yourself go blank and come back. Let the movement feel slow and deliberate in a way that might feel strange at first. That strangeness is your brain noticing something new. That is a good sign. If you have been doing this exercise and you want to share what you have noticed, leave a comment below. Write week 1 done if you are committing to the first 7 days. Write what you felt, even if it was subtle. Your experience matters here, and it matters to the people reading alongside you. Someone who is right now hesitating, someone who is not sure if it is worth trying, might read your words and decide to begin. That is a real thing you can do for another person today. If you want more content built on current neuroscience, practical strategies for keeping your mind sharp, and honest conversations about what aging actually means for the brain versus what we are conditioned to believe, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. I put real care into everything I share here, and I want it to be genuinely useful to you. Your brain built the world you have lived in. It deserves your attention, your respect, and your willingness to keep asking something of it. 60 seconds, starting today. I will see you in the comments.